Welcome in, everybody, to Inside the Borough. We are back with a Week 2 edition. We survived. I know it was a rough Week 1, but nevertheless, we are back. Robbie, Lastella, Kevin Fielder, your host, joined by a special guest this week, Keith Hadley, Know-It-All Man, FAMU. Keith, thanks for hopping on with us. How's it going?
All is well, man. I appreciate it. Unfortunately, I'm hoping for a better week this week than we had last week at the benefit of FAU, but, it is what it is.
Keith is the host of the Fangs Up podcast. Keith, why don't you tell us a little bit about you were telling me about it. Sounds like it's a big operation you guys got going on there. So why don't you let the FAU people know what's going on with Fangs Up?
Absolutely. And so for those, welcome, shout out to Royce if he is watching, but I do run the Fangs Up podcast. I also run the FAMU fifth quarter Twitter page, and I help out with the FAMU boosters as well. But big thing we do is really within, you can call it the FAMU universe, we really try to operate as one. So you can see that we have multiple different shows, but we're all towing the same line and really just trying to promote the university and try to step in where we see that there is a space. I mean, we all understand that, we're not the Florida States of the world, and, it's a little different from us. We grew up across the street. I used to work at Florida State. So we know the experience of you go over there, you go to Strozier, then you go back to Coleman. It's a different world over there. And, you get to go to Doak and you appreciate it, Doak and UF and UCF and even you guys, what y'all have there. But we also understand that we got to make sure we tell our own story. So what we do is we ensure we tell our own story and we try to do it as fair and balanced as possible.
Love to hear it. You know what? I mean, we FAU fans can definitely appreciate that. We all know the uphill battle it is with some, I guess you can call it the big three, FSU, UF. So I feel like every other school in the state's kind of got to rally together a little bit, whether some want to think they're too good for that. I don't know, but I think everyone should rally together. So that is awesome to hear. But we are here to talk FAMU, FAU matchup. Week 2, Keith mentioned you might be making the trip down there, but it feels like FAMU football is kind of, they went from the Willie Simmons era now here into the James Colsey era. Last year, 7-5 finish. Week 1, they got off to a little bit of a slow start, but kind of where are we at with FAMU football right now? What's kind of the general look at the program?
Oh man, I mean, if you're a fan, it's frustration, but it's prideful frustration because you, as a fan, you feel like you should have beaten Howard. Howard doesn't quite have what we have as far as the accessibility to resources. I mean, we all have Florida speed, and we know what we have here in Florida. I mean, last year that 7-5 was behind the arm of a FAU transfer, quarterback Daniel Richardson. So we saw what he did there. We saw what he did in the MAC, and then you come over and you look at some of our other positions. You look at Ace Cobb, a kid from here in Orlando, attended the great Jones High School, and so it's a lot of similarities and relationships between the two universities. So you have two frustrated fan bases. I mean, sure, FAU fans felt like that Maryland game was going to be a little bit closer, but when it comes to FAMU fans, and we thought we were going to win, and we thought it wasn't going to be close, and to turn around and lose by a field goal, and man, we're frustrated right now, and we're looking for some change in this FAU game.
You mentioned Daniel Richardson, Howard. They went and got themselves a Florida guy as well. They had former FAU quarterback Tyreek Starks leading the way, so I thought that was interesting. But, the offense, you guys had a first-time quarterback out there. What'd you kind of think of that situation? And it kind of, from what I've been reading, is the defense going to be the strength for you guys this season?
Absolutely. So far, the defense is a strength. When it comes to the quarterback, the position, the question is, can he read defenses? Can he process? Because this is his first season playing at the college level, and you have those normal problems that you have with a first-time guy who's coming from playing high school. College speed's different, and the college speed is going to get a lot faster because you're dealing with Florida speed. I mean, you're talking about FAU, and while FAU is not one of the Power 5 or Power 4, Fortunate 4 schools, you still got NFL caliber talent there. I mean, you guys have NFL Hall of Famers on the coaching staff in the form of like Chris Carter as your receivers coach, but there's still going to be guys that are fast there. And, when they leave FAU and decide to come to a school like a FAMU, most times those guys are in our top 3 or 4 of our rotations. So it's going to be a lot of speed. And I'm really wondering, when it comes to FAU defensively, what are you guys going to throw at us? Because we've seen where he takes a little bit of time to process what he sees in front of him. Is FAU going to try to confuse him defensively? Because if so, there's some opportunities to get a little get back from what you got last week.
Yeah, you mentioned it. RJ Johnson threw 133 yards, no picks. Kevin, I didn't mean to cut you off. You're going to jump in there?
Yeah, Keith, I was just going to ask. Obviously, you mentioned the quarterback, and I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, there was another quarterback battle this fall, this spring to decide sort of that it was going to end up being who it was. What was that quarterback battle like? Was there ever truly any thought that this would not end up the way it ended up going, or was there truly a quarterback battle where, two or three guys were battling it neck and neck throughout camp?
Man, it's a point of contention at this point. I mean, if you're a FAMU, and we actually came in thinking that the other guy was going to win it, Jet Petty. Jet Petty is a quarterback that played the junior college level, threw for over 2,000 yards. And as you look at his film, and he's very accurate, but it's the gunslinger versus the game manager. And so you have the young game manager who's coming here, and he's not as decisive and he's not as quick versus the gunslinger that kind of throws the ball. He's a little more, fancy and footloose with the ball and may have more turnovers. So we're looking for some change. And, one of the things the fan base, and you probably may have seen Coach Cozy on the 220 Club today say that, hey, wasn't really thinking about making a change at quarterback, but the iron is hot. And, unfortunately, this is year 2 of a 3-year contract. So, you go into year 3 without not having a great season, man, the seat can get hot. And, when you're not at those autonomous 4 schools or those fortunate 3 here in the state of Florida, your contract ain't $1 million contract. You're talking about $200,000-$300,000 that can be bought out with a classic game. So, when FAMU comes down to play Miami, that's a $300,000-$400,000 check for the university. You better fix it.
It's interesting because as much as there's probably a point of contention at quarterback, I would argue they probably have a more talented running back room than some group of 5 schools do. And I'm talking about Thad Franklin and Levante Somerset, who, I've covered Thad Franklin for years. That's a really talented back who just could never make it work at Miami. And then Somerset's a guy who's really emerged as a reliable back. Is that sort of what's saving that offense at times, to know that you've got 2 running backs who are that talented?
It's a 3-headed monster. I mean, you got a third running back that transferred in, and he's a speed guy. And so, like you said, you got Thad Franklin. He's the power guy that, kind of that Emmitt Smith type guy. I know that's not a very fair comparison, but, within the comparison of a guy who doesn't have great speed, but also has a lot of balance. He's that, if we're playing NCAA football, he's the balance running back. Then you get to Bo Somerset, and Bo is more of, he's still in that balance frame, but he's the slower balance back. And then you got your speed guy. So you got a 3-headed monster in there. And the question is, can they make defenses stay honest? And that's the biggest thing, because as you mentioned with the quarterback position, you didn't get a lot out of it. And now that running game is the saving grace. And then you start to look at the receivers. I mean, do we get to see Ace Cobb get to go against his old teammates down at FAU? I mean, that's an interesting question, because he couldn't quite get on the field at FAU. So what's it going to be like when he's on the other side of the field is going to be a real question.
You mentioned it, Ace Cobb as well as linebacker Justice Cross. Both were Willie Taggart recruits, and I believe they both played a year for Tom Herman as well in 2023. So they'll both be back on the sidelines for FAMU this weekend. But kind of shifting gears to the defense a little bit, I read in the preview top 15 in the FCS total defense after 1 week. What's kind of been the strength of that unit so far? Davian Westmoreland, is he kind of the MVP so far?
He's one of them. I think the big one is going to be the big Bobcat in the middle from Gainesville. Like, Nayron Jenkins is the guy. He's a very quiet leader, but I believe he led the team in tackles. But he was a big-time guy coming out, I believe it was Gainesville Buchholz, I want to say it was. And so he's going to be your defensive guy to look at in the middle. And the big difference really is the defensive line. Last year's defensive line, the transfer portal hit us at the wrong time. And it really, it robbed you of your best talent. And, I mean, you guys face the same fight. We all understand when the big boys come a-calling, you can only stroke so many checks to make it right. And so that last year it hit at the right time. You're seeing players like General Hunt at the University of Illinois. You're seeing Anthony Dunn at Kent State, and the list goes on. Even down there next week, you're going to see one of our former players, John Chainsaw Chaney, playing for FIU, and he's gone back to Willie Simmons. So, but this year the strength is FAMU's defensive line, and you have a new defensive coordinator, new offensive coordinator. Well, relatively new. This is just going to be his 4th, maybe 5th game of the season. So, or his coaching career as an offensive coordinator. So the big thing for FAMU's defense is going to be the run game, but can they sustain? We did sustain an injury to one of our top defensive tackles, Donald. And so he might be in a walking boot. So he's probably not going to be playing. So we're going to see, can FAMU's defensive line hold up and slow that FAU team up? Because we did see where there were some struggles with the quarterback as far as him getting rid of the ball against Maryland, but FAMU ain't got that same level of defensive line, for being honest.
That's one half of the 300-pound interior lineman that you guys have out potentially. Is run defense could that potentially be a concern for you guys heading into this game?
Run defense more so with your tempo. Like in watching FAU, this offense is quick and it's a tempo offense. And one of the things that we all know, I mean, we all play video games, drop the sticks if you never played before, but tempo is a killer in this type of games. And what happens is you wear out the defense, you wear out the defensive line, and you wear out those big boys. And all of a sudden that just opens it up to where now the linebackers and the corners are tackling. And I'm sorry, I'm 200 and some pounds now, maybe. Back in my high school, college days, I'm 185. I'm not trying to tackle a 230-pound man. I'm just not trying to do that. And so we know that's going to happen. And, man, if FAU's quarterback can kind of hit those short routes. I mean, they were there last week. You saw where, Maryland would get their hands up, tip a ball here, something like that. That's open against a FAMU where you can wear us out largely because of roster size and things like that and just overall depth. So I think first quarter, game's going to be kind of tight. But I think once you get to halftime, that's where you start to see a little separation. You see some of those hands on the shoulders and hands on knees and stuff like that. So I think the pace of FAU's offense is going to be the game changer right now.
Keith, obviously last week probably didn't go the way any FAMU fan wanted it to go, but were there any positives that you can go? And I know this is the moral victory talk that every coach is going to say we don't talk about moral victories, but what were the positives from last week's game where, if you look at it from the overall picture, you can go, okay, you know what? We probably should have won that game by more. But, looking back at it 2-3 days later, these are the things that we did well.
You were good at everything but offense. Like, it was like the most frustrating part of the game is you won every category you were supposed to win except for penalties. Howard had 5 penalties. FAMU had 6 penalties. Time possession, you won. You held them below 150 yards passing. You won the running game. Every statistical category that says, hey, boys, we're going to win these categories and we're going to win the game. You won and you lost. And so I think that's going to be the big to-do and the big kicker as far as just being as a FAMU fan. So it's going to be interesting because I think this is I can't remember how many times we come down there. This is how old I am. I've seen FAU play FAMU at Bragg before. So that'll tell you something. And we lost that game. It was fun though. But it's just a good atmosphere, man. Unfortunately, the band's not coming, but it's just going to be a good time. I think when you start to look at it, you start to kind of get that familiar vibe. Like, okay, we don't always know everybody from FAU. We don't get to play everybody down there, but it's that good place of seeing someplace different, seeing somebody who has nice facilities. Y'all stadium, it's a nice stadium. Even when it was Schnellenberger, we know y'all changed the name and y'all have done the wise thing and got some corporate sponsors. Y'all got good facilities down there. I mean, you can see the ocean from y'all stadium. Like, it's the best view, one of the best views in college football. So I think overall, like, it's going to be a fun time. I think if you're a FAMU fan and you're rational, though, it's probably not going to be a win, but you're just hoping that you don't come away with any major injuries, and you're hoping that your players flash and put some good film on there that maybe helps them get not drafted. We know in these days and times it's very hard to get drafted because there's just more teams, but to at least get a look from an NFL team.
Keith, how has kind of for when you guys have matched up with FBS opponents in the past, G5 teams, obviously we saw it that Power did to FAU last time, but how, is there kind of a similar situation that occurs? Is there something that you guys kind of always see, this is why we lost, or is there something that what's that kind of feel like for you?
Normally it's defense is normally why we lose, and it's sometimes stubbornness. Last year was Troy, and last year it was special teams. Our special teams, we literally went from having the best special teams in the Southwestern Athletic Conference to within 2 weeks we had the worst. I mean, our kicker hits the transfer portal. Well, he red shirts, and then by the end of the season, he transfers. So, special teams is always the big to-do, and skill positions. I mean, it's that you got to get the ball to the best players in space. And, man, FAU's got speed, and they're well coached. And I think that's going to be the thing where we kind of look back at this game. It's missing tackles. It's not slowing players down in space, and it's sometimes kicking the ball to the wrong person. Like, we know we can't necessarily kick the ball to whoever's returning kicks for FAU because he's fast. And if we continuously do that, you're going to get burned. And next thing you know, the band's playing, the fans are going nuts, and we're all looking like we had them. And that's normally the big difference.
I feel like that's kind of how it's not this year, but that's the same thing kind of with FAU sometimes and power opponents. We saw it last year at Michigan State. It was just a couple misplays, some mistakes here and there. All of a sudden, you're on to losing. And Keith, you mentioned you're going to be making the trip down. Do you expect there to be a kind of somewhat large to decent FAMU contingent at the game?
I wouldn't say large. I think you'll get a good group from the people that are in that area, maybe within the driving distance. Just because, especially after last week, man, a lot of the fan base is kind of dejected, but those diehards are going to be there. I mean, you have those people in South Florida, and I tell people all the time, as a Tallahassee native, I wasn't driving to Miami for stuff. Like, we played Orange Blossom Classic. If it wasn't in Tallahassee or Jacksonville, I wasn't coming. That's an 8-hour ride. But for those people that are making a 2.5, 3-hour ride, it's not a bad ride. And also, you get to be in Boca. I mean, we all know, especially those of us from Florida, it's not Miami. And that's a beautiful situation. It's not as crazy. You get the beauty, and you get that. Boca is just a little calmer. Like, I don't know how to explain it to people. I try to tell people, like, you can love Miami all you want to, but if I'm going to take a family vacation, and when my wife and I, when we do go, we stay in Boca. We stay in Fort Lauderdale, and then we make the trip down to Miami for Dolphin Stadium or whatever. But it's just a better vibe. It's a better atmosphere, and you just kind of enjoy it a little bit more personally.
Keith, I'm going to have to clip that and send that over to the FAU marketing department. They will greatly appreciate that. But no, you're right. It's definitely a little bit different than Miami. If there are any fans going, the FAU tailgaters, not the students, they're insane, but the grown folks, they're definitely a good time. They'll welcome you right in. They'll probably be grilling and stuff too. So it's a good atmosphere out there, and they're nice to visitors as well. Keith, and where can the FAU fans find you on social media and your podcast?
Absolutely, and I appreciate y'all for having me, man. So feel free to check me out, HBCU Digital Network. Also, check me out on the Fangs Up podcast Twitter page. As I mentioned, I run the Fifth Quarter FAMU page. So, during games, we try to be a little funny, have a little more of that fan side, not always be the buttoned up media person. But, those are the main places you'll find me. And occasionally you'll find me with hanging out at the ONG Strike Zone with my cousins and my friends over there.
You heard him right there, but I got one more for you, and I forgot to ask it. I should have asked it before. But if you had two X Factors, one on each side of the ball, who are they?
Ooh, great one. On the defensive side, I gave y'all Nayron. I think Nayron Jick is going to be a big one, but look out for TJ Huggins. TJ Huggins is a DB, and at times he's kind of Jekyll and Hyde. Like, sometimes he's getting burnt, other times he's burning you. Offensively, y'all know Thad Franklin. I think Thad Franklin's a big guy. The thing is, he's a big back. He's your stereotypical big back. He's good for like 3-4 run plays, and then he's tapping that helmet. Coach, I need a blow. So can you get him there? And another sneaky one. Look out, Florida State transfer Goldie Lawrence. He's a sneaky one. And if our quarterback can read defenses worth a blessing, he might be able to find Goldie a few times. Goldie still flashes some of that talent that he showed that made him a target at Florida State.
You heard it here from Keith. Keith, thank you so much for hopping on with us. We appreciate it. And if you're coming out to FAU this weekend, looking forward to greeting you in paradise.
All righty. I appreciate y'all. Y'all have a good one.
Yes, sir. Take care. Keith Hadley from the Fangs Up podcast. We appreciate him hopping on with us for this week 2 episode. Kevin, we won't dive into it too much, but we'll give our brief thoughts on week 1 and then we'll close it out. What do you what are your thoughts after that one?
How much time do we have?
We got all day, but
I don't know if we truly have all day. Truly, because I think people would start clicking off after a while. Truth be told, I don't care. That wasn't good enough. I don't you can think of any excuse in the book as to why that happened, right? I don't care about the excuses. I think I've gotten to the point where we've spent all off season, and rightfully so, hyping up this offense. Rightfully so, hyping up what this offense can be with Caden Veldkamp at quarterback, with the receiving weapons and the nature of the offense. And you go out there and lay an egg like that on to some degree primetime television. I know it's the Big Ten network. That's never been primetime television, truly. But like
noon.
It was noon. But like, I understand it's the first week of the season. I understand you're playing Maryland on the road. I understand Maryland's more talented than you are. I get all of that. You don't have to get me wrong. I also want you to have a better showing out there. I want you to look like you belong on the same field as them. And like, Robbie, I don't know if you have a different take on the game. It didn't look like they belonged on the same field as Maryland. It looked like they were playing two different sports out there sometimes. And I get it, right? Like week 2, week 3, week 4 will likely be a better situation for FAU. You never judge a team off of 1 week as much as you never crown a national championship after 1 week, looking at everyone trying to crown a national champion after 1 week. But like when you go out there and you spend as much money as you did, or as much resources as you did on a head coach, on a new quarterback who knows the system, on weapons who understand the system, I expect a little bit more. Like, that's just, truth be told, I expect more. And maybe I'm the bitter fan here. Maybe I am the bitter fan. And I will rightfully accept that moniker if that's what's given to me. But there was not a single thing that offense did well for 4 quarters. They got embarrassed. They got their butts kicked. And man, maybe you have a different take. I thought the defense showed some things that were encouraging. I also think they got their butts kicked by a true freshman quarterback starting his first football game in college. There were very few things where I look at that game and go, wow, there is a real positive here. Because truthfully, when you throw 6 interceptions, at least I think that's what it was. I don't remember. It feels like I had an amnesia by the end of the game. When you throw 6 interceptions, you fail to convert on multiple 4th downs. I have no issue with being aggressive. But when you fail to convert on multiple 4th downs and you let half their team win like player of the week in the Big Ten, I mean, I don't have a lot of good things to say about the performance, right? Like I just don't have a lot of good things to say about a performance like that.
Yeah, I think it was surprising, definitely. I mean, going into the game, my prediction obviously was a loss, but I thought the offense was going to put up points, and I thought the defense would have struggled. And they did in the second quarter there, but I think that a lot of their issues there in the second quarter had to do with those failed 4th down conversions, plus a couple of turnovers that put them in precarious starting position. Now, that's the situation they're going to be in. They know that. So you can't have quarters where you're getting, 26-0. FAU's offense has to be able to respond to their own mistakes. I do think there was a positive in the run defense department. They only allowed less than 4 yards per carry. And then they only allowed, I believe it was 2 runs of 10 yards or longer. Now, Maryland was not trying to establish the run because they were passing it all over the place. But that's somewhat of a positive sign. Najon Barber did play well up front, and FAU's run defense was the highest in the American out of teams who played FBS opponents. But we're not hanging our hat on that. That's about the only positive. Like Kevin mentioned, 6 interceptions, that can't happen. Unfortunately, it happened, and that is what it is. You can't have mistakes like that against FAMU, and you really can't have mistakes like that against FIU. And beyond that, in conference play, if you have mistakes like that, you know what'll happen. Next 2 weeks are pivotal. The offense has to find their footing, and the defense has to. It was like you mentioned, it was all right, but the past they struggled a little bit there in that second quarter. And I mean, there were some unfavorable matchups and things that led to that, and that's why I'm not ready to close the book on the defense at all by any stretch. And the run defense showing strides after what we saw last year is a good thing. But the next 2 weeks, what I need to see the most is I need to see an offense that's not throwing 6 interceptions. There were missed reads. You can see it. Kitley said it. There were misreads on the RPO that turned into a safety. They needed to hand the ball off. On the goal line, on the first play of the game, there was an option to hand it off. Kitley believed they should have handed it off there too. I don't have access to the film, so I don't know exactly. But knowing that first play, it seemed like there was something there, but it just ended up falling apart. So got to have more cleaner reads. Was Caden's kind of mental clock sped up a little bit against the power? Maybe. But this week, Easton Messer said it. He's expecting a lot of points. don't let that be a bad take. The offense needs to capitalize, and I believe they're more than capable of doing that. That's why I'm not ready to close the book on anything after Maryland.
I mean, truthfully, sorry to cut you off, but like,
you're good, yeah.
This is still 1 week. And like I said, when I was like during mid-rant, I guess, right? Like, you don't judge a team off 1 week, good or bad. We're not calling FSU national championship winners because they beat Alabama in the first game. Truthfully, once you get to week 5, no one cares what you did in week 1. That's just a thing that happened, right? And like, the good news about everything is you've got 11 weeks to prove me wrong. You've got 11 weeks to prove that whatever happened in week 1 was just a mirage, was a bad week. You're allowed to have bad weeks. You're not allowed to have multiple bad weeks. And like, you should be winning this game comfortably regardless, right? Like, I think you could probably play a B game and still win this game comfortably. You shouldn't go out there and be happy with a B game against this team. Because the truth is, right, like, I know that we're kind of projecting ahead after this. That FIU team looked pretty damn good. That FIU team looked pretty damn competitive. And I know that, like, that's going to rub some people the wrong way because it's not – I get it. Like, I don't say a lot of good things about the little brothers down south. But they looked pretty dang good in that first game. And so a B game probably won't be good enough against them. It definitely won't be good enough in the American. When you look at the teams that they have to play in conference, man, you need an A game every single week. You want the season to be anything more than what it was under previous regimes and what it's sort of become normal to do over the last few weeks. You got to start winning now. You don't get to wait till week 5 to start deciding how you want to play. It needs to happen now. The good news is you have the perfect game to get it right. And so, like, truth be told, right, like, I think we'll have a far different tune after Saturday's game, good or bad, but you've got the perfect game to get it all right.
Yeah, I mean, this week is going to be good for the offense to kind of find their footing. You hope. If there's struggles this week, then you really get to be concerned a little bit. But I really don't think that will be the case. I think the offense will be able to play turnover-free football, hopefully. And I think that's, to me, the most important thing because mistakes will kill you against FIU. If they're throwing 2 to 3 interceptions, I don't know. So I think this week will allow the offense to kind of find their footing a little bit. In terms of the depth chart that actually did just get released per FAU Owl's Nest, I believe it's also in the week's game notes, but there are no new changes per the depth chart. Therese Reed, Zion Perrette starting corners, Demarius McGee and Duda Rogers both rotating in there as well. Chris Keys and Dylan Williams there at safety, and Wendell Fallord in the nickel. So that's your secondary there.
Different. What didn't Tooley start at corner?
Yes, he did. He did start in that game, which I thought was interesting. But, Wendell also only played 33 snaps. We asked about injuries. His name was not brought up. So I don't know.
I wonder if they just said they didn't need him once this game got to 35 points or whatever it was.
Yeah, you know what I mean? I'm not too sure, but he's back listed in a starting role there. Offensively, no sign of Quincy Brown yet as a starter or as a backup. He's dealing with a leg injury of some sort, just a tweak. He's going to be a red zone target when he comes back for sure. We saw some fade balls go to the tight end, Mike Kirch. When he comes back, look for some of those to go his way as well. Not sure if he'll be back yet this week or not. For more on that depth chart, make sure to go to FAU Owl's Nest on X. Winding down here, Kevin, final thoughts on this matchup with FAMU this week. Obviously, both of us, I believe, are predicting a win, but what do you think is going to go on in this game?
Yeah, I'm not going to give a score prediction because I think it's kind of pointless to predict a score prediction for this game. Truth be told, win by a lot. Don't even make it look ugly. Like, just make it. I need pretty. Like, I know that, like, every football coach will say you'd rather win ugly than lose pretty. I need pretty wins. I think this fan base needs something different. They need to see proof of concept to some degree, right? And, like, I don't expect you to go out there and score 100 points. I'm not going to sit here and be like, if you don't score 85 points, it's not a look like there's been major improvements. Look like everything that you worked through a camp is now starting to be put together. We'll see what this offense looks like in 4 weeks. I think that's when I'll start to judge it. But I also want to see this team look better because there is a lot there is a really high ceiling for this team. But if you were to ask me to judge it off of 1 week, I'd say the ceiling was started here. It's now all the way down, probably here. It can get back up to here. We just need to see a little bit more. And I think this is the perfect week just to see a little bit more.
100%. People are already doubting. The computer models are doubting. They're giving FAU a 26% chance to reach 6 wins. I don't know. I mean, it's a tough schedule for sure. But 26% seems kind of low. So this week will give a chance to kind of reset those computer models a little bit. The big thing for me, I don't want to see in this game, I don't want to see any turnovers from the offense. Maybe that's asking too much. I don't know. But no turnovers, 100 yards rushing, and keep the defensive improvements coming. We saw the run defense last week look good compared to last year. Let's have the secondary. They had some solid moments, but they also had some struggles as well. I think this week is a chance for the secondary to bounce back against the quarterback, which Keith mentioned, had some struggles. The fan base potentially wanted another quarterback in there at the start, so we'll see. Maybe this is a chance for the secondary to kind of find their footing as well and head into FIU firing on all cylinders. 6 p.m., find yourself at the Flag, FAU versus FAMU. Zach Kitley, home debut. Be there this Saturday. We'll have coverage for you on FAU Owl's Nest, and make sure to thank Keith Hadley. You can find his stuff on the Fangs Up podcast. For Kevin Fielder, I'm Robbie Lastella. We'll see you next week for a preview of the Shula Bowl. Hopefully talking to you in good spirits after a W. We shall see you next time right here on Inside the Burrow.